Kirby games until the 2000s were weird, okay? Like, you got the mainline 2D games with Kirby's Adventure and the Dreamland series, Superstars and 64, but then you got the weird-ass spin-offs like Kirby's Block Ball or Kirby's Avalanche. Anybody wants Tilt and Tumble?
Yes!
Kirby is a successful franchise, there is no doubt about it, but in reality, most of these games sell well just because they have Kirby on them.
I mean, look at this guy, you can't go wrong with a fucking ball!
To be honest though, I was never a Kirby fan too much. I know. Kirby doesn't do too much when it comes to innovation. The promise of sucking up enemies and then copying their abilities is super cool, but in reality, that's the only thing these games do. Kirby games are basically super easy Mario games. I mean, these are platformers when you can fly. It can't really get much easier than that.
I don't really think so.
When the GameCube arrived, many Kirby fans wondered where the series would go. At that time, we've already got Kirby 64 plus Kirby Nightmares in Dreamland. It was surely that we needed something new. And what a goddamn thing we got. Kirby Airide, a racing game developed by HAL Laboratory and published by Nintendo to the GameCube in 2003. And yes, you heard it right, a Kirby racing game. All these fans are going off the roof.
But I don't know how to drive.
The director of this game was none other than Masahiro Sakurai, the same guy who worked on the Smash Bros. Series. The reason Sakurai wanted to make a racing game is to match something with the Kirby Right Back Atcha show, and a racing game was the quickest option. But the thing is that Mario Kart Double Dash was released that same year, and say what you will, you can't really beat Mario Kart. For this to be successful, it needs to be unique and bring something special.
But more on that later. For now we gotta focus on alienated burgers.
When you start up Kirby Arid, it plays the opening cutscene, kind of like the Smash games. It's a mix between regular gameplay and these cutscenes. It also teases you that Meta Knight is a playable character, and after that we get...
Oh my god, circles!
The menu in this game is ripped right out of Melee. I mean, look at this is literally 1-to-1. So we got 3 modes in this game, Airide, Top Ride, and City Trial. Let's start with Airide as it is the main focus of the game.
Well, if I'm gonna start talking about the actual racing in this game, I might as well talk about the controls. Let's see what the Z button does. What?!
Kirby Arid is probably the most simple racing game ever. Only 2 buttons for the whole game. Wow, they really wanted this game to be played with an NES controller. The A button does everything here. Braking, drifting, sucking up enemies, literally everything. Yeah, this sounds kind of brain dead, but how does this really affect gameplay? Well, let's hop on a vehicle, select a track, and start racing. I lost.
Damn it!
In an oversimplified racing game where you accelerate automatically, the only way for you to win is by giving your A game. Every millisecond matters here. You have to learn every track super well because without that you're basically done for. All of this makes Kirby Arid a challenging racing game. The satisfaction you get after precisely shaving off milliseconds out of your time and by that winning your race is not something that you get from every racing game, and that's really what makes Kirby Arid special.
So these are all the things I wanted to get out of the way, so now I want to talk about how the game really plays out.
Kirby feels alright to control. It did feel slippery when I started, but eventually I got used to it. Drifting is actually the main focus of the game. Like, well, every other thing in the game, it feels weird when you start, but once you get the hang of it, it becomes much better. It feels squishy, so to speak. Kirby squeezes down and your vehicle comes to a full stop once your drift is fully charged, and you get your speed back once you release it. It makes it super satisfying to pull drifts correctly. The developers definitely nailed that part. While they are oversimplified, the controls in this game are decent enough. The main issue here is the fact that all of the actions are set to the A button. It doesn't make the game unplayable and really isn't much of a big deal, but would it be better if some of the other buttons would be useful as well?
Abso-fucking-lutely.
So overall, the controls are fine. If you have the right vehicle, that is.
Yeah, so this is another time when I talk about something for a few minutes and then debunk it 3 seconds later with another thing.
So Kirby Arid also lets you choose between different vehicles. Unlike in Mario Kart where the vehicles tweak a few of your stats, here the vehicles change everything. The Warp Star is the default vehicle you start with. Basically everything I'd mentioned beforehand stays true here, but this is probably the only vehicle that goes that way. The Wing Star, for example, is much slower but has a lot of airspeed. The Swerve Star can only steer while drifting. The Silk Star is super slippery, and there are many more. There are actually a total of 16 vehicles to choose from. I really appreciate that the developers were not afraid of making every vehicle unique, but that also leads to some issues. A lot of the trucks were not designed with all the vehicles in mind, which makes some vehicles way better than others. It's a shame because a lot of the time I would love to try and switch playstyles, but I can't resist the fact that a lot of the time I'm better off just going with the vehicles I already know. With that said though, I still appreciate the vehicles in this game. It is fun to switch a playstyle from time to time, and the way the vehicles are so unique makes it a lot of fun to see what kind of bullshit is gonna happen next.
The game is probably gonna turn itself off or something.
But Kirby can't exist without copy abilities, I think. They return here with their full glory.
They are completely useless.
So in the mainline games, the way copy abilities work is that you suck up an enemies and then get his ability until you either swap it with something else or get too many hits. That almost works the same in Airide. There are enemies around the tracks and if you suck them up, you get their abilities. It may not seem like it, but there are a lot of problems with this mechanic. First of all, you still need to use the A button to suck up enemies, and sometimes I would start a drift or other action when I just wanted to swallow an enemy. This sucks because you can lose a lot of time just because you missed an enemy, and a lot of the time it really ain't your fault. But the main problem with the copy abilities is that they're not even useful to begin with. Most of the abilities consist of hitting other enemies or turning yourself into different vehicles. Aiming with the copy abilities is absolutely asinine. It is impossible to aim. Not only that, but the impact of them is close to nothing. When you hit somebody with fire or plasma ability, it does slow them down, but they get back on track so easily that it really doesn't matter. The only copy abilities that I really risk going for are the mic that automatically hits everybody that's close enough to you, or the wing that gives you a lot of air mobility. I really don't find any use with the other ones.
But wait, what about sucking a nunchuck?
Something that Kirby Arid introduced is the checklist. It's basically the trophies and achievements that we see today. There was something like this in Melee with the trophies, but outside of that, that's really the first time we actually see something like this. As you keep filling out the checklist, you'll unlock new things. These include vehicles, music, and recolors of Kirby. The recolors and the music are cute, but the vehicles are what's really worth it. You can also unlock King Dedede and Meta Knight as playable characters. Unlike Kirby though, they are vehicles, and as weird as that sounds, even the wiki lists them as such.
Wow, I didn't know King Dedede and Meta Knight were vehicles.
The problem with the checklist is that some of these achievements are just way too grindy, like race over 100 laps, defeat over 1,000 of your enemies, or fly for an hour. Of course, not every achievement is like this, and most of them are actually pretty interesting, but I do not recommend going for every one of them. There are 120 achievements for every mode, so I really recommend for you to just play the game casually. The graphics are at least very nice. The game has this GameCube-ish feeling. The developers were not afraid to try new things, and I really appreciate that. You can see this most in the courses. They have so much variety and are just pleasing to look at. Same goes with the music. It still feels like Kirby, but it never stays the same. While it isn't as iconic as other titles, Arid still has a fine soundtrack. But the thing that shines the most in this mode is the tracks themselves. There are a total of 9 tracks, 10 if you count random.
I would always love to try racing on random.
This may seem a little, and even in 2003 this wasn't the greatest number you could get to, but while every one of these tracks plays similarly to the other, they are still unique and bring something new to the table. The first track you'll be racing on is probably Fantasy Meadows. It is actually the only race that has 3 laps, with all of the other ones ending at 2. This track teaches you the basics of the game. As such, it doesn't have the most interesting level design, but at least all the other tracks are pretty good. You got places like Beanstalk Park with this big ass wheel that is made out of beans because the whole area is made out of beans.
The person who made this track really liked choking.
Machine Passage is one of my favorite tracks. It has you shooting yourself out of cannons and maneuvering between the ship. I always like to put Meta Knight's Revenge here and then make the ship feel like it's the Hellbird.
Dreaming is pretty cool.
The last track I want to talk about is Chuckster Nights.
Yeah, so names are something I would like somebody to explain the concept of.
It starts in this blocky area, but then you grind in this long rail and the place becomes really colorful and it's like you're hovering over a city.
Yeah, just be careful not to fall.
Overall, I really like the track design in this game. There isn't a single track that I would not like to race on, and that says a lot. Outside of the usual courses, you could also do the time trial and the free run. They both basically speak for themselves. Time trial is where you try to get your best time on the courses. It is overall pretty good if you are more competitive, but the problem here is that you need to go through 3 laps of every track, which really makes it drag on too much. Most of these courses were designed with 2 laps in mind, and while it isn't the worst thing ever, adding this extra lap just makes them a little too long in my opinion.
You also lose time when you pause the game, which... why?
Free run is basically a time trial, but instead of trying to get your best time in every course, it is much more, well, free. You try to get your best time in every lap, but you have infinite laps. It's basically a training mode, and while I don't think it's bad per se, I don't have any reason to ever come back to it outside of maybe trying to get some of the achievements in the checklist. But that's everything for Airide. Let's move on to the next mode and...
But wait, we forgot about the tutorial video! Wow!
The next mode is Top Ride, more of a mini game to the actual game. It's much more simple than Airide. Instead of having full 3D tracks, all of the courses are now on a single screen. It still plays like Airide, you still need to cut corners with the drift, and the controls are basically the same, but now it's much more simple. Top Ride has 7 tracks, and just like Airide, all of them are really unique and take the whole single screen idea and run wild with it. It was really surprising to me to see how much effort the developers put into this mode. It could have been just another little mini game, but it isn't, and it's really cool to see that. You only have 2 machines, the Free Star and the Steer Star. The Free Star is steered by tilting the stick where you want. It gives you a much more precise way to control yourself. The Steer Star on the other hand is steered by tilting the stick left or right, so just use the vehicle that matches your playstyle. Just kidding, use the Free Star. All of you Steer Star enjoyers, you morons.
None of you are invited to my birthday.
Over the courses, a bunch of items will fall all over the place. These can get from making yourself bigger to attaching a chainsaw to your vehicle. The thing is that there are so many items falling off that even if you don't try to collect any, you'll probably get some anyway, and that makes Top Ride so chaotic and messed up, so unpredictable, and that's really what I like about it. Just like Airide, Time Attack and Free Run return, but I don't see a reason to ever play them again as they are really boring compared to the regular races. Overall, Top Ride is a cool side mode that I don't go back to as much as the other modes in the game, however I still think it's pretty fun.
Speaking of fun,
the final mode in the game is City Trial, and it is absolutely amazing. City Trial works like this. You spawn in this giant map and you try to get as many upgrades to your vehicle as you can. When time runs out, you are forced to play a random minigame in the stadium. The city feels so gigantic. It has a lot of interesting places, like the volcano, that if you grind on this rail, it leads you into it, where there is a ramp that bounces you way up in the sky. Green Greens is a part of the city, with Wispy Woods making a return, and for some reason he won't die. It's such a fun place to explore, but what is there to do in City Trial? Around the city are various items. Some of them are the copy abilities, some others are just vehicles, and most importantly, upgrades to your machine. You're supposed to collect as many upgrades as you can. They can raise your offense, defense, top speed, all of this kind of stuff. However, if your vehicle gets destroyed, all of your upgrades disappear and you have to find a new vehicle. That's right, you're actually able to get out of your machine and move with only Kirby. This is really cool and really makes you want to have an actual 3D Kirby game.
And it's good that it only took them 19 years to listen.
After the time is up, you'll be forced to play a random minigame. These can be a one single lap race, a target flight, and there is even a race with only a single line.
Yeah, everybody loves those things.
The problem with these minigames is that sometimes you could have a vehicle that guarantees you to lose, like having a swerve star in target flight. That's basically suicide. I also don't like that there is only one map for this mode because it can get a little repetitive to me, but outside of that, City Trial is awesome. A lot of people think that this is the best part of the game, and I'll have to agree with that. It is really fun to explore the map, find upgrades and other vehicles.
Kirby Arid has one more thing for us to talk about. Land support.
Kirby Airide gets an 8.5 out of 10. While it isn't perfect, I really like what it tries to do. I have tons of appreciation for this game. The developers were not afraid to try and test new things. Some of them worked and some others not that much, but I still like what they tried to do. From the 3 modes it has to offer, I definitely like City Trial the most, but I still enjoyed Air Ride and sometimes Top Ride. Definitely play this if you are a Kirby fan, it's worth it just for its wackiness.
Well, that was one hell of a ride. Now that the Z button doesn't do anything, this world is falling apart, and there is only one way to fix it. On an unrelated note,